Hi, folks, and welcome to another edition of Zog Science. Today, we're going to be taking a look at animal nutrition, specifically getting into the animal digestive system. So, there are four main steps to animal nutrition. Number one is ingestion, or the intake of food. Number two is digestion, which is breaking down the food. We've got absorption, which is the movement of the food into the body. And finally, an elimination, or getting rid of the undigested or unabsorbed material. And you can kind of see the general steps of that. In ingestion, we're going to mechanically digest the food a little bit, take it in, break it into some smaller pieces. Then we've got chemical digestion going on. We're breaking it down into small molecules. Those small molecules will then be absorbed into the body, and then the rest of it will be eliminated. Now, there are various different feeding strategies. We have bulk feeders, such as the python down here and the bear, which are going to eat kind of large amounts of food at one time. You've got substrate feeders, where they kind of live in their food or live on their food, in the case the caterpillar, and just kind of they eat as they go and then they eliminate behind them. You've got fluid feeders, such as mosquitoes, which are going to be slurping down some delicious blood. And then you also have suspension feeders, which are going to be pulling in food kind of from water. They're going to be filtering out the food that they don't want while taking in the stuff that they do want to be eating. Now, there are two kind of basic plans, body plans found in animals. You've got diploblastic animals, which have a bag plan. Basically, the mouth and the anus are the exact same opening. And so food is brought in through that one opening into what is known as the gastrovascular cavity. And in that cavity, digestion takes place. So digestive enzymes are released into the cavity, food is broken down, and then those food particles are going to be engulfed and then digested and kind of spread throughout the different cells. The other kind of body plan we can have is the triploblastic tube body plan. And here's where we've got a gastrointestinal tract where you have a separate mouth and anus. So the food comes in one way, goes through the system, it's digested and absorbed, and then eliminated out through the anus. Now, the GI tract is an important feature in the evolution of animals. More ancestral animals had a gastrovascular cavity, whereas more recently evolved animals all have a GI tract. And this basically gives us a more complex system that allows more control and increased efficiency because of compartmentalization. Sounds pretty familiar, right? Sounds a lot like eukaryotic cells, where you've got compartmentalization allowing different reactions to be occurring. And what is going to be moving things through the GI tract are involuntary smooth muscle contractions, which are known as peristalsis. And that's what's going to be moving things from one place to the next. We are going to be specifically looking at the mammalian digestive system, in particular our digestive system, as a model. And then we're going to just follow a piece of food as it goes down through the GI tract. So come along on the journey. Now, before we get started, organs of the tract are separated by kind of doors, which are called sphincters. These are muscles that will contract to kind of shut off one organ from the other and help with compartmentalization. There are two different types of digestion. Number one is physical, so breaking the food into smaller pieces. We also have chemical digestion, where we are actually taking those pieces and then chemically breaking bonds. The goal is to break the food into small enough pieces, aka into monomers, right, or maybe dimers, right, very small molecules that can then be absorbed into the body. So the first place is the mouth, right? We take some food, we ingest it into our mouth. In fact, I just had a cookie a moment ago, so I chewed it up with my teeth. I was mechanically breaking down the food. My tongue helped to move it into the rest of the GI tract. So by swallowing, what you are doing is you are pushing the food into your esophagus and then down into the rest of the GI tract. We also have salivary glands, which are releasing saliva. And that saliva contains amylase, and the amylase helps to break down starch that is in the food. The other point of the salivary glands is to help wet the food, which allows it to then slide more easily down the esophagus. So stage two, as I've been mentioning, is the esophagus. This is what connects the stomach and the mouth, and it keeps the food from going into the lungs. The way it does that is we have this little thing called the epiglottis. So when you swallow, your tongue pushes up to the top of your mouth, can mix the food into what is known as a bolus. It's just kind of like a piece of food, or it's kind of like a ball of food essentially. And so it pushes it down. The next step is that the epiglottis gets pushed down, and it covers up the trachea, which is very good because the trachea leads to the lungs. So whenever you are choking on food, what you've been doing is that because you've been breathing, your epiglottis has been not closed completely. So you might get a little bit of food down into your trachea, which is not good. And then you've got an esophageal sphincter, which relaxes, which allows the food to then pass down into the esophagus. And what happens is that we have this wave of peristalsis, these muscle contractions, that helps to push the food down into the stomach. Again, there is a sphincter at the top of the stomach that will relax, that will then allow the food to enter the stomach. Once we get into the stomach, this is a muscular pouch that is used for holding and digesting food. We have both chemical and physical digestion that are going to occur in here, just like in the mouth. Physical digestion is done by muscles, which are contracting, and they're kind of, squeezing it up. Think about if you've ever made scrambled eggs in a plastic bag, right? So you take the plastic bag with your eggs in it, you kind of squish it up. That's the same kind of thing that's going on with your muscles inside the stomach. And then you've got chemical digestion, which is done by gastric juice. Gastric juice is made up of two things: HCl, which is hydrochloric acid, that helps to kill germs, and it also helps to activate pepsin, which digests proteins. At this point, the food becomes known as chyme before it then moves on into the next step. Now, before we move on to the next step, let's talk briefly about this pepsinogen pepsin system. So what happens is that inside your stomach lining, you have what are known as chief cells, and those chief cells release pepsinogen, which is an inactive form of pepsin. Now, the reason why you want to release an inactive form is that you do not want pepsin digesting the structural proteins and other proteins found in and around your chief or parietal cells. You want to wait until it actually gets into the stomach proper, where it's not going to start digesting all this important proteins that are found everywhere, right? So you've got this inactive form of pepsinogen, which is released. Then you have the parietal cells, which are going to be releasing hydrochloric acid. And when the hydrochloric acid runs into the pepsinogen, once it is inside the actual stomach, it will then take the pepsin and turn it back into pepsinogen. It takes the pepsinogen, turns it into pepsin. The pepsin will then go back and reactivate more pepsinogen, turning it into pepsin. So you have this positive feedback loop that occurs, where as soon as you get some of the pepsin, it will create more of the pepsin, which is good because you need the pepsin to help the digestive process. What we have kind of coming up is two things are going to happen at the same time, okay? The food is going to move from the stomach into the small intestines. At the same time, accessory glands are going to be releasing enzymes into the small intestines in order to help digest the food. The main two accessory glands are the liver and the pancreas. The gallbladder is kind of important. You can live without it. It is basically just a place for storing excess stuff that the liver creates. The salivary glands are also technically an accessory gland because they produce enzymes that are then released into the mouth. The reason why they're called accessory glands is that the food does not actually pass through these organs. Instead, they simply contribute enzymes to the digestive process. So the liver, it produces bile, which emulsifies or surrounds fats. And that is one of the ways that it kind of helps the fats to be able to be digested, because fats are lipids and lipids do not dissolve very well in water. So having this bile, which emulsifies the fats, helps the process along. Again, excess fat is stored in the gallbladder, which is important and good, although you can live without your gallbladder. And the liver is also one of the few parts of your body that can regenerate. So if your liver gets damaged, it can actually regenerate itself, which is pretty cool. Then we've got the pancreas. The pancreas creates and secretes enzymes for all the macromolecules. So it creates amylase, lipase, nucleases, and then chymotrypsin, and peptidase, which all digest proteins. It also produces bicarbonate, which is a base, and that is going to neutralize the hydrochloric acid found in the chyme, which then is going to raise the pH, which is important because all those enzymes that we just talked about, the pancreas creates, they are all best functioning in a basic pH. So you want to neutralize the hydrochloric acid, create a basic environment. That way those enzymes will function as best they can, because otherwise, what are they going to do? They're going to denature, going back to things that we've talked about a long time ago, right? It all comes back together. So what happens is that these accessory glands, they're going to be secreting their enzymes, and those enzymes are going to be meeting the chyme in the duodenum or the duodenum. I don't know exactly which one you pronounce it as. It doesn't really matter. I always have called it the duodenum. You can call it the duodenum, whatever you want to say. This is where the process of digestion finishes up. So all of the accessory glands are going to dump off their enzymes into that space. It's only about 6 centimeters long, so it's not that big of a space. Once digestion is complete, the food now moves into the jejunum and the ileum, which is where absorption occurs, and this can be up to 6 meters in length. So your small intestines are a pretty long distance, and so there's a lot of space for absorption to occur, which is good because you want the process to be as efficient as possible. Now, the structure of the small intestine is set up in order to help facilitate the process of absorption, and the way it does that is by increasing surface area. So what happens is that the small intestine is folded up, and these folds are called villi, and those little folds are then covered in cells, and the cells have their own little folds in them, which are called microvilli. And again, this is, or another term for them is the brush border. And so the whole point of this is in order to increase the surface area, because that's the way that absorption is going to occur. Mostly absorption is going to be occurring through diffusion. And after those nutrients are absorbed in, they're going to be traveling into the bloodstream, and then the bloodstream will be carrying the nutrients to the rest of the body. So again, just kind of a little bit more. The epithelium, that's the inner layer, is specially adapted to absorb nutrients. The villi project into the tract or into the small inner side of the small intestines, and each are covered in microvilli to increase surface area. The nutrients diffuse through the microvilli into the capillaries found within each villus. Villus is the singular for villi. And then the absorbed nutrients travel to the liver for detoxification. So basically anything that's toxic is kind of filtered out. Next, we've got the large intestine. So the food travels through the small intestines. All the nutrients are absorbed. Everything that's not absorbed goes into the large intestines. This helps hold the undigested and unabsorbed food, along with lots and lots of bacteria. All of the bacteria inside there, they help to take the undigested and unabsorbed food. They break it down a little bit further into some vitamins, right? And then you absorb those vitamins, which is really good. And then also with the large intestine, his major job is to reabsorb all the water that is a part of the food. And that's really good because it helps you to be more efficient. You don't have as much water loss. And then eventually you are going to eliminate the unabsorbed material, hopefully voluntarily, especially at this point in your lives. So this is just kind of a graphic that shows you all the different types of chemical digestion that are occurring. Again, we've got the salivary amylase that's going to be breaking down starches. Then in the stomach, we've got pepsin, which is going to be breaking down the proteins. And then again, in the duodenum of the small intestine, you've got the amylases, trypsin, chymotrypsin, and the carboxypeptidase, not peptidase, pancreatic nucleases, the bile salts, and the pancreatic lipases that are going to be helping to dissolve all the different types of macromolecules. And then right along the brush border, you've got some breaking down of a couple other things as well. So the digestion is controlled by both the nervous and the endocrine systems. There's an autonomous part of the nervous system that helps control the GI tract, which is good because you don't want to have to think about all those different parts. And there are also several key hormones involved. And there are 3 different things that we're going to talk about: just general digestion control, blood glucose levels, and satiety. So the first one is digestive control. So what happens is that food causes the stomach to expand. So food goes into your stomach expands, you produce gastrin. That gastrin is then going to stimulate production of hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen, which is then released into the stomach. So the stomach produces its own gastrin, which then stimulates the stomach to release hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen. Kind of a weird thing, but it is the endocrine system because it goes out into the bloodstream and back in. When the chyme moves into the duodenum, this causes the release of secretin and CCK. And the secretin and the CCK stimulate the pancreas to release its enzymes. The CCK stimulates the gallbladder to release the excess bile, and all of the enzymes and secretions then go into the duodenum to do the process of digestion. Now, if a large enough amount of secretin and CCK is produced, aka you have a lot of food, what that does is it inhibits the process of digestion. It stops peristalsis, or not necessarily stops, but it regulates peristalsis to occur much more slowly within the stomach, so that you're releasing less food into the stomach or into the duodenum at a particular time. Next, we've got blood glucose levels. When you have high blood glucose levels, so basically you've eaten a lot of food, that stimulates the pancreas to secrete insulin, which leads to the production of glycogen, which then takes the glucose and stores it. And it stores it as glycogen. So that is going to then decrease your blood glucose levels. Now, if at some point your blood glucose levels get too low, that stimulates the pancreas to release glucagon, which stimulates the breakdown of glycogen, which is then going to release glucose. So we have a homeostatic mechanism through negative feedback that is going to help maintain proper blood glucose levels. Finally, we've got satiety. So we've got a few different hormones. We've got ghrelin, which decreases satiety. So basically makes you hungry. So when when you don't have a lot of food in your stomach starts producing ghrelin, which is then going to help you become hungry again, which is good. Then we have leptin, PYY, and insulin. These all increase satiety. So they increase your feeling full and makes it so that you are less likely. Well, you can still eat, but it's going to make you feel like you don't want to eat. It does take time for satiety to kick in. It's not an immediate thing because it takes time for those chemicals to reach up into your brain, which is why you can eat a whole bunch of food, right? And then all of a sudden you feel full. Well, if you eat it super fast, you're not going to feel full along the way. Right here, we've got some knockout mice. This one does not have the satiety gene, while this one does. And so you can see that that mice has eaten a lot of food and has become rather large. Now, when we talk about animals, there's a lot of different mouth adaptations that we can have. Carnivores, notice that carnivores have the very pointy teeth, right? And lots of premolars. Those pointy teeth are for biting. The premolars are for tearing. So they're going to be biting and tearing meats. Very little molars to be able to grind up food, which makes sense given the food that they're eating. You've got herbivores, which have almost no canines, a little bit. They're going to do a little biting, those incisors, for tearing leaves, but they've got much more developed molars in order to grind up their food. And finally, we've got omnivores, which have pretty good balance of both, like us, so we can tear our meat and then grind up our vegetables as well. We also have GI tract adaptations. So notice carnivores and herbivores have different amounts of small intestine, large intestine, cecums, and that's just because they need to digest things differently, right? You have different needs, so you have different, or you're eating different foods, so you're going to have different digestive systems. And then we have these special herbivores, which are called ruminants, and ruminants have an extra kind of area of their stomach. What they do is that they will be chewing some grass or some other plant. They'll chew it, swallow it, it will go into their stomach, digest a little bit, and then they will bring it back up through their esophagus into their mouth. Well, they will then continue to chew. That's why they talk about cows chewing the cud. What they're doing is that they are swallowing it, getting some digestive enzymes, putting it back up into their mouth, continuing to chew it. The reason why? Cellulose is very difficult to digest. It takes a long time to digest it, so you have to keep this process going until finally it's broken down enough where you swallow it, goes into the rest of their stomachs and through the rest of their GI system. All right, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.